Hello everyone and welcome to the Data for Food 2030 podcast. In this podcast series, we focus on the project's 9 case studies. These are real-life examples that aim to map and improve the data economy for food systems. In today's episode, we spotlight the case study Premium Grain Chain, or for short PGC. For this reason, I'm very happy to welcome Marko Turpeinen from the project partner 1001 Lakes. Marko is an expert in digital transformation and innovation, and together we will deep dive into the PGC case study. Marko, welcome and thank you very much for accepting our invitation and joining us today.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
So to start, could you give us an overview of the Premium Grain Chain case study and outline its primary goals?
First of all, the case study takes place in Finland. We have the ecosystem in the agri-food sector, which is involved in grain production, working together on how to improve the exchange of data around grain that's available for the food processing and related industry. So we want to create a data-enabled quality label and the data solutions around that, so that when grain is being produced, it follows with the grain. We have kind of a data labeling system which helps to identify that the grain actually meets quality requirements that are then set by the rest of the ecosystem, used in the different ways in the process. So it's a quality label exercise for grain production.
That sounds very interesting, and I would like you also to tell us a little bit about what sparked the idea for this case study.
So, the theme of data spaces, which is very much also relevant for our data economy for food in general, was one of the starting points. So about 5 years ago, we started having this sort of broader discussion in Finland that can we create something called agri-food data space Finland. So the idea is that both having the different actors involved in trusted data ecosystems and data exchange, but also kind of making the Finnish partners and players more ready for the European solutions that are coming and are around the corner related to data spaces. So that kind of was the background, and one of the reasons why we are now in the Data for Food project, all in all, is that we wanted to make this connection to the European initiatives, and then make sure that also we find very concrete and actionable case study from Finland, and this is now one. So we found very much interest in the ecosystem actors, that this is an important business goal. We just felt that this is a very good fit when the project was being planned, and we still feel like that. So it looks like that we are on the right track.
Sure, and you mentioned the data economy for food systems. How do you envision this case study contributing to an inclusive and fair data economy for food systems?
Well, I think it is actually at the core of our case study. So the story is that there's a lot of data that is gathered from the primary production, from the farms. Now, how do we make sure that data is used under the conditions that also the farmers can influence, that it's in a fair way distributed, the value of the data is distributed across the participants in the grain chain, and how kind of agree on those fair rules. So I think that is actually one of the key outcomes of the case study. So we work on those practices, on those principles, on those rules that make this fair data exchange and the value distribution possible.
And how do you aim to achieve all this? For example, are there any key activities or strategies that are being employed in this case study?
So, well, it has to do a lot with engaging the different stakeholders, the different partners. So we have, partners from the production side, from the agricultural production, farmers, farm cooperatives. Especially the cooperative side has been quite interested because the whole story of how do the farmers share data in a cooperative setting, and then that cooperative then acts as an actor in the value chain towards the next stage, which is typically the food processing companies, and then all the way to the retail. So, kind of the point is that we want to engage the different stakeholders, have workshops, discussions, what's possible, what's not possible, and it has to be said that this is not simple because there are some kind of imbalances in the power structure. So it needs to be clear that okay, so now it should not be so that, for example, some parties can just say that, well, you need to produce us this and this much data, and this data has to be in such and such format, but not giving anything back. So this kind of what am I getting and what am I giving? So kind of balance for all partners should be understood. And there again, so kind of how do we do it? Through workshops, through common documentation on what could be these best principles. We have a tool called Rulebook. So and we use a rulebook model as a basis for this, and the outcome is that we will have a premium grain chain rulebook that documents these principles. At the same time, we are also doing a technical implementation. So, for example, there very importantly, we have a partner called Dataspace Europe, who has a platform called Triton for data exchange in a data space setting, and we use Triton to make this concrete and actually happen at the technical level. So that's another dimension through which we make this actually, we actually deploy the premium grain chain.
You're using various activities and a very concrete strategy, and your answer leads me to our next question. How will the outcomes of this case study benefit stakeholders within the food system?
Well, shortly, there is the specifications for what is premium data quality grain, and how you actually specify that as data. What are the data items? So kind of being clear on that, and how do you include different dimensions, there is an outcome. The other outcome and kind of benefit is obviously these more clarified principles and rules. So that helps the ecosystem, that helps all to kind of be in a more, let's say, trusted mode when you start the data exchange or do the data exchange. And then the third is this practical, technical understanding of what's needed when we want to make this controlled data exchange possible, and experiences from the different tools and practices that are now possible with data space related technology. So those are the three main outcomes. Of course, in the broader sense, you can think that what we do is also helping other ecosystems, maybe other case studies in data for food, and is replicable, is usable, can be used as a best practice. All of that is kind of a next level of potential outcome and impact beyond our own ecosystem.
Thank you very much for your answer. And now I would like us to go back to the quality label you mentioned before. Could you explain a little bit more how the data-enabled quality label for premium grain chain products is developed and its significance for the consumers and producers?
So this has several dimensions. So first of all, there are very kind of, let's say, specific qualifications on what does a quality grain mean, and those typically are specified by the parties which are making food products and want to have the quality assured. food and drinks, by the way. So we have, yeah, there are grain based drinks as well, of course. The other side of this is sustainability. So we want to include as one of the dimensions of the data enabled quality label that you're able to show that your practices have been sustainable. So the indicators on how do you define sustainability, what's the data that's used to meet those indicators. So that's something that we have specified and helps then all of the different parties to come up with the right kind of data. So very practically, we have like a data model on this is what you need to send if you want to have your carbon footprint, for example, calculated and be part of the quality label data. So a little bit like this, but it depends. There are several different aspects to the quality label and quite practically. So it's the data model that have been defined. Then on the other hand, the other thing is that how do we make sure that it's packaged in a way, it's available in a way that is usable by different actors in the ecosystem, and that's kind of, we call them data products. So this is a data product. The data that's needed for the quality label is a data product, and this definition of data products helps.
Thank you very much. And let's focus a little bit more on how does this quality label promote sustainable business practices across the agri-food value chain. I would like your perspective on that.
So again, this fairness, equal kind of opportunity for different actors to participate, and not like dictating. So that's a big step forward, or big important ingredient in having sustainable business practices. So that's more from the point of view of how do you make a, let's say, healthy ecosystem work around data. Then of course, there's the whole aspect of sustainability as such, like environmental sustainability, but that I just touched earlier. That's part of what the premium grain label or quality label includes. So being able to show all the way through the agri-food chain, from the food production or agricultural production practices all the way to the consumer. Making visible that this meets certain criteria for sustainable production. So that's also very important in our case study.
As I imagine, also transparency plays a role, from what I understand, in this case.
Absolutely. So making sure that these practices and the way how these quality label items are collected are done in a transparent and documentable way, and then as an outcome, increase transparency and increase sort of visibility and trust regarding the food production practices, again all the way to the consumer. So I think that is something that we aim to achieve.
Now let's move on to the results. Have you seen any improvements in data flow and grain quality tracking since the implementation of this case study?
So I have to say that we are still, let's say, in progress. So we cannot say much yet conclusively, but the early indicators that does this make sense? Are we able to collect this data? Are the ecosystem parties interested to do this in a harmonized way? Kind of, let's say, limited prototypes, for example, around the key indicators on sustainability. All this points to that this is something that will work and the participants will want to make happen. So far so good. But as said, we are not done yet, and maybe we won't be fully done even before the project Data for Food ends. But that's not a problem. This is a fairly big question actually for the ecosystem, so we want to make it right.
So for now, your indicators are very positive, and this is what matters in this early stage.
Yes.
And now I would like us to move on to another question. How do you anticipate the premium grain chain will influence market power for farmers and the overall agri-food sector in the future?
So I think one of the main motivations here is to make sure that the farmers will have more say in terms of how their data is being used, but also provide them mechanisms to show transparently and in a trustworthy way that they meet quality requirements. So all of this should improve the position in a way of the agricultural producers, the farmers, and there should be direct benefits in that sense for the farmers in this dynamic market of grain production. Then, of course, there's the national Finnish dimension to this. So a lot of the production that we talk about here is happening in the context of Finland and for the Finnish consumers. But there is also the export dimension, and Finland is actually one of the leading producers of oat, for example. So when these oat producers have better information and quality data, or data about the quality of their products or their oat production, so that is an asset that probably will help them also in the export markets, and that's another clear benefit for the farmers.
My most important takeaway is that the farmers will have a more powerful voice through this case study, and this is a very important aspect to take into consideration.
Indeed, so there is the ability to influence, but then also very concrete business opportunities. So improved visibility to the practices allows better assessment of the quality, which helps in for example, getting premium price for your grain.
Thank you. And one last question before we finish our discussion for today. How does Premium Grain Chain contribute to the overall goals of the Data for Food 2030 project?
Well, I think this is a very clear example of fair data economy. So how do you create these situations which more strive towards more fair distribution of value? I mean, we are talking about value creation and value distribution when we talk about data economy. That's at the heart of the whole project. So I think we show from one angle very concretely what are the challenges and what might be remedies to get a more fair and balanced data ecosystem going on in the agri-food sector.
And as I mentioned in the beginning, all the case studies of the project are real-life examples of the data economy for food systems. So Premium Grain Chain is another one real-life example. I would like to thank you very much for joining our podcast today and for sharing all your interesting insights regarding the Premium Grain Chain case study.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And as for you, dear viewers and listeners, thank you very much for watching this episode, and don't forget to stay tuned for all the next episodes.